Alright, in this section, we're going to create all the other enemies. We're going to start off creating a new node for the other ship, the power-up, and the meteor. We're then going to ensure to set each export variable correctly. Then we're going to test each enemy type. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and create every other type of enemy. So we currently have the enemy 1 here, which we can leave perfectly fine. Let's go ahead into our components folder, find that enemy1.tscn. Go ahead, right click it, duplicate. Then we can call this enemy 2. This will be for our stronger ship. So let's do enemy 2 right there. Let's open that up. Let's go ahead, change the main node so we can make it look different than the original one. Let's locate another red ship. I'm going to do this one here, player ship 1. Let's drag and drop that onto the sprite 2D. Oops, make sure you're adding on the correct sprite 2D. That's going to be this one here. Drag and drop it. Nice. All right. And you can double check the animations still work by selecting. Make sure we have it set. Should flash it red. Looks good there. Let's test the other one. And looks good there. Nice. Let's set everything back to idle. All right, let's go ahead, select the main node here. Now for this ship, we need to adjust it. This one's going to be a little slower than the other one. So I'm going to go ahead, let's make this one 70. We might adjust this later. And let's make the health for this one set to 3. Now this is also a type ship, so we can leave that the same. Let's go ahead now, save that real quick. Let's scroll back down to our components folder. Go ahead, select the enemy 1 again, right click, duplicate it. Let's go ahead, change the name. I'm going to do meteor. Let's go ahead, open up the meteor. Let's go ahead now and change the main sprite 2D to the meteor sprite. We should have some in here, the meteors. I'm just going to use the first one right here. Drag and drop it on the sprite 2D. All right. I'm also going to go ahead, select the enemy name right here. Change that though. We want to call this meteor. Now for the health for the meteor, we need to put it at something that it won't ever be defeated, like 100. So let's set it to 100 there. And this will also match the speed of enemy 2. So let's change that to 80. Let's go ahead, save those changes. Don't forget we also need to change the type to meteor as well, because the script is going to prevent the hurting animation if we do this. Make sure it's spelled correctly from the script. Let's save that change. Now one thing I think we forgot to do is we never changed the main node name for enemy 2. Let's go ahead and do that real quick so we don't forget. Save that. All right, now we just need one more, which is going to be the power-up. Now I know it's necessarily not an enemy, but it's going to have the same functionality and the same script attached. So let's go ahead, locate our enemy 1 again in our components folder. Right click, duplicate it. Just call this power-up. Go ahead, open up the power-up. Change the main node name to power-up. Let's change the sprite 2D. We can locate the power-ups. Might be in power-ups right here. I'm going to use the yellow lightning bolt, drag and drop it in. I'm also going to rotate this back just because I think it looks a little funny like this. Let's transform, send that to 0. And then we also have to increase the size of this one. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's make this something like 2. That might be a little too big. Let's do 1.5. That looks good to me. If you want to make it a little bit more clear, you can go ahead to texture and set the filter to nearest. Now, for this one, we want this one to be very fast. So let's go ahead and change the speed to 150. Now, because this is necessarily not an enemy, we want to go ahead and we need to change this to match up with what we want. Now, if you remember, if we go back to our player, go into the player's script, go ahead, locate it. This is the actual group for the power-up. So we need to make sure we name it exactly the same as this. So let's copy that name. Let's go back to our power-up. Now on its area 2D, it currently has the enemy set. If you go to groups, we need to change that so we can turn that one off, add a new one, paste in that name we have from our player's script, and hit OK. All right, let's save that real quick. Close this up here. Now we might adjust the speeds for some things, but let's go ahead and set up everything for testing in the main script. All right, let's test them out now. So to test them out, we'll simply just drag and drop each one into here and just have them as a default enemy. Before we do that though, if we don't change one thing, they are going to disappear halfway down the screen. We're going to have to go to the actual script for the enemies, and that simply is going to be our cue-free timer. Now, they're set to timeout after 5 seconds, which is fine when we create the actual game, with of course spawning them, but for testing, that's not going to be enough time. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and just comment out my cue-free here, and then put a pass. We'll make sure to change this back when we're done testing, but this will keep them alive as long as we want. Let's go back to 2D view. Let's go to main. Let's drag and drop each one in here. So scroll on down to your components folder. Let's put each one into our main scene. So I'm going to take enemy 1. I'm going to put it on main, move it over somewhere like right here. Let's do our enemy 2, drag and drop it over here. Again, we'll move it into a position like right here. Let's go ahead, let's do the meteor, drag and drop it. Move it somewhere like right about here. We'll also go ahead and do a power up as well. Drag and drop it onto main. And simply just move it over. Let's save those changes real quick. Start current scene. Go ahead, hit play, choose a character. And they should slowly be coming down. Now I think they're going a little slow. And let's make sure that the power up works. Looks like it does. Can we attack the ships? Yes, we can. And it sets us game over when we hit the asteroid. But like I said, they're moving a little slow. So let's adjust those. Let's go ahead into enemy 1. Go to the main node. Let's simply adjust the speed to something a lot higher, like 300. Save that change. Enemy 2. Let's do something a lot higher, like let's do 240. Save that. Let's make the meteor the same speed as the slower ship, so 240. Save that, and then for power up, select the main node. Let's change this one to something higher. Let's do like 400. And looks like we also never changed the type because this is not a ship or a meteor. Let's go ahead and just simply change this to an empty value. Let's save these changes. Let's go back to main. Let's go ahead, hit play. Let that load. Hit play here. Choose one of the ships, and there we go. I like the speed a lot better. Again, if you want to customize that to make them go faster, you totally can. That's completely up to you. Let's close out of there. Let's remove what we have in here. Again, we don't need these because we're going to spawn these in with a specific node for that. So let's go ahead, select them all, delete each one, save what you got here. Don't forget though, we need to change back our script, specifically in the enemy down here. We need to uncomment that and then get rid of the pass. Again, save what you got, back to 2D view, and we're looking good. In this section, we're going to create the spawner. We're going to start off and create a new node for the spawner. We're then going to ensure that the spawner can create each type of enemy and the power up. We're also going to add the ability for the difficulty to increase over time. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with the spawner. So what we're going to do here is create a new node for it in our main scene. Let's right click, add child node, select the node 2D, and we're going to go ahead and rename this as spawner. All right. Now before we get to the script of the spawner, we're going to have to give it some positions to where we want it to actually spawn in all the different enemies, meteors, and power-ups. So let's right-click on spawner. Let's go ahead, do a node 2D, and we're going to call this L point. This is going to be the left point. So let's go ahead and put that somewhere where we think the left point is good, like right about here. Then let's go ahead and take that, Control D to duplicate it. Simply call it R point. Then all we're going to do is simply go ahead and move it towards the right side, somewhere about here. And we might push in this one over here just a little bit because we want everything to fit entirely in the screen. That should be good. So with the script, what we're going to do is be spawning in anything in between these 2 points. Now for the spawner, we're also going to need a timer. Let's right click, add child node, select timer. And this timer, we're going to go ahead, we're going to set it to auto start. And we're going to go ahead and set this at a base level of 0.7. Looks good. Let's save what we got so far. Let's go ahead, select the spawner node, add a script. Make sure we're saving this in the correct location in the scripts folder. Hit open. Go ahead, hit create, and there we go. Let's get started with a couple variables. So we're going to go ahead. Let's create some add-on readies. Now, add-on readies are different than the add-on exports. Add-on readies are going to be already loaded in objects. So we're going to go ahead, call this one variable, and it's going to be called the enemy _1. And we're simply going to go ahead and equal this to a preload. And we're going to equal this to our enemy1 preload. Now make sure you go ahead, type in the correct name, and make sure you have that .tscn at the end. So now we just need to do this for each one. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to go ahead, simply paste it below 3 more times. Let's do the enemy2 now. So go ahead, change that to 2, and then simply change the preload to our enemy2. Make sure it has that .tscn and nothing else after the quotes. Let's do the next one. This can be the meteor. So let's go ahead, call this meteor. And we're going to go ahead, locate the meteor one. Go ahead, remove that .tscn over there. Now the last one is the power up. Let's go ahead. Let's do the power up. So power up. And I'm simply going to change the preload to the power up one. Looks good there. All right, next variable. We're going to go ahead, do some more add-on readies. So add-on ready, var. We're going to call this start POS. And we're simply going to equal this to our start point, all right? Which can be either one, so we'll do left point there. And then we're going to go ahead, do another add-on ready, variable, endpoint, or end position POS. Simply go ahead, drag and drop the R point right there. All right, now we just need the timer. Let's do an add-on ready, var. We're going to call this spawner _ timer. And we're simply just going to equal this to our set timer right over here. Now we just need 2 more variables. Let's go ahead, create a variable here. We're going to call this spawn _ interval. And we're simply going to go ahead, do an underscore as well, and do our, let's do rate. And then we're going to equal it to a, let's simply do 0.01. And this is what's going to decrease over time, making the game harder, spawning everything faster. Next up, we're also going to need a variable to limit it. So we're going to do min _ spawn _ time. And we'll simply set that to something like 0.5. Save that real quick. Let's go ahead and start off with our first function. This is going to be our process function. So everything that updates over time. So let's go ahead, do function _ process. Now inside of it, we're going to do a couple things. First thing though we need to check is our global game on, we want to make sure that that goes ahead and equals true, and that our global dot will do game over equals false. And then within there, we're simply going to go ahead and say if our spawner timer dot wait time is greater than our min spawn time. Then we're going to go ahead right below it inside of the if statement. We're going to do our spawn timer dot, we'll do wait time minus equals spawn interval rate times delta. Now we're timesing it by delta just to help with the frame rate, just so it evens it out throughout all different processing speeds. Now we're going to go ahead and do the next function. This function is going to be the signal from the timer itself to actually spawn one of our things in. So let's select the timer, go to the node, make sure you're selecting it. You might have to select out and in again, select timeout, and connect it simply to that script, the spawner. You're going to see this new function appear. And now this, of course, is going to initiate when the timer goes off. Now, one thing to make sure is that in our inspector for the timer, it's not a one-shot. It should always be going over and over again by having these settings here. Now let's go ahead and get started in here. First thing we're going to do is say if global dot game on equals true, and global dot game over equals false. Then within there, we can start the process. We're going to go ahead and create a new variable, call this random underscore node underscore scene. That's going to be one of the things we can spawn. Then we're going to create another variable. We're going to call this power underscore up underscore chance. And we're going to set that simply to something like a 0.05, which is a 5% chance. Now the reason we're doing this is because we don't want to spawn the power-ups too many times. We want there to be a very low chance of the power-up spawning. So we're going to create a different calculation for the power-up. Let's continue on. I'm going to make some enters here so we can see it a little better. This is a pretty big function. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to say if. We'll do rand I, which gets a random integer range. Give it a set of parentheses. And what we're going to do is we're going to say if it's less than our power-up chance, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to set random node scene equal to our set power-up. If that is not the case, we'll do an else, and we'll create a new variable, call this node underscore to underscore spawn, and we'll simply equal that to an array, which will be our enemy 1. We're also going to have our enemy 2 in here, and then of course the meteor in here as well. Now this makes things a little simpler if we have it in array, because then we can just choose one of those out of there instead of calculating each one like we did with the power-up. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to do random node scene equals, and we're going to do nodes to spawn, and we're going to get one of them now by doing a random I, so random integer, and then we'll use the percentage symbol, which will help us grab one, such as nodes to spawn dot size. So that simple calculation, like I said, is going to pick a random integer, which is going to be either 0, 1, or 2, and then set it to our set random node scene. Now, since we have both random node scene, either one of these here or the power-up, we can go ahead and start the process of creating it into the game, which we're going to do by variable new underscore node equal that to random node scene dot instantiate. Make sure you spell that. It won't auto do it because it doesn't know it is a node. There we go. Then we're going to go ahead underneath there, create another variable. We need to calculate the random position in between the 2 points. So we're going to do random underscore x equals random. We'll do float range. Now this gets a random float, meaning it's going to either be a 1.0 or of course a 1.2 or whatever. We have these set, which you can see here. If we go here into the transform, you're going to see the position is set to x of 69.0 and the other one is going to be 635.0. So we're going to get a random float in between each of these. Let's continue on here. So we're going to go ahead inside of here with the pass where those 2 points are, which we can easily do, which is going to be our start position dot global position for our starting x. And make sure though you go ahead and do dot x to get that, comma, because we only want the x, we don't really care about the y. Then we're going to get the end position dot global position dot x value. So there we go. Now we're going to get that random point in between the two we have here. Now once we have that, we can go ahead. We're going to set our new node dot global position equals a vector 2, because we're going to set the x and y. For the x, we're going to set it to that random x we just calculated. And then the y can simply just be one of the points, so end position. Let's just do dot global position dot x value. And there we go. Or make sure that's y value, because by default, these are both going to be the same y's. But of course, we're having that random x at the beginning there. Then we're going to continue on. We're going to have to add it as a child. So add child, new node. And there we go. We should be set with that. Again, you can always check out the source code. Let's go ahead and remove these extra spaces here. Save what we got. Go back to 2D view. Close some things up. And we're looking good so far. Let's go ahead now and test it out. So let's go ahead. What we're going to do is start current scene. Let that load. Hit play. Play as one of the characters. And we should start to see now the enemies floating in. Looks good there. The points are increasing also. Let's make sure we can game over. Looks good. Can we go back to main menu? There we go. Now one thing I did notice is it looks like when we get to game over, it was deleting the objects in the game. So we can go ahead and change that so it doesn't do that. What we could do is simply go into one of our scripts for the enemies, power-ups or meteor, go all the way down here to that timer out. And all we're going to do is say if global dot game over, let's say equals, or let's say, yeah, we'll do if it equals false, then we'll go ahead and we'll do a pass. But if it equals true, which is going to be our else, then we're going to go ahead and queue free. So let's save that change. Let's go back to 2D view in the main, close everything up, start the game again. Go ahead now, play until you get a game over. And now the different enemies, asteroids, and of course the power-ups shouldn't delete. If they are still deleting, we might have reversed it. Let's go back in there. Oops, yep, looks like we did. Let's go ahead, take that, paste it there, and then change that to pass. And now we should be good. Let's save that again. Go back to main, 2D view. Go ahead, hit play. Now everything should freeze and not disappear. The lasers though will, and that's okay. I think that looks better without them. If you wanted to do that with the lasers, you could as well. All you would need to do is add that same if statement for when the lasers time out. Let's go ahead though, close what we got here. We can do that change as well. Let's go ahead back into one of our scripts. Let's just copy that same line there. Go ahead, locate one of the laser scripts. Let's find where it times out right here. And then we're just going to paste that exact piece of code with the if global.gameover equals false, queue free, else do not. Let's go ahead, save that. Back to 2D view in the main. Don't worry about this. Go ahead, hit play. 3 times the charm. We should be looking good after this. Let's go ahead. Yep, looks like things aren't disappearing. That's great. Let's go back to main menu. Close what we got. Close out here. Save what you got. And there we go.